Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Hi, how's everyone doing this fine Thursday day? What's new, what's exciting, what's going on in your guys' lives? Talk to me. Let me know down below if there's anything new that you guys have been doing or anything different, or what you guys do in the last week. I just want to thank each and every one of you guys who came out and watched my videos. I haven't had that many people viewing my videos in such a long time, and it just means the world to me having everyone come out and watching them and just, loving them and liking them, and it just means the world to me. So what's going on? So I went shopping this weekend. I did the Sephora sale. I'm trying the new Rare Beauty. You guys see that? Blush, because I've heard mad good things. I also got Better Than Skin, Sephora brand, which I've used before on the channel. And then the last thing I got was the One Size True Tone Up the Base BB cream for the days that I don't want to wear makeup. So that is what I did. Those are the things I'm going to be using. Probably just one of the items. I don't think I'm going to use this one today. I'm probably just going to stick to my Catrice one, and then I'm going to, just do my face as usual. So today we got a good one. Oh, forgot to mention, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Joan MacLean. I'm here every Thursday telling you a true crime that's happened here in Canada. So welcome to the channel. Today we have a good one. Today we have one of the youngest serial killers in Canada. He didn't have the best upbringing. He suffered a lot. He struggled moving from foster care to foster care, and it just wasn't the best environment for him. Does that mean that you should go kill people? No, it doesn't, But let's get into it. Let's get directly into the story, and you guys are going to learn a little bit about Peter Woodcock. So I'm going to try to do that thing again. Ooh, I have a hair on my face. Where I show you guys my products while I'm using them, just so it's a lot easier. I don't have to do all the typing. So I'm going to go in with my trusty e.l.f. Putty Primer. And then I'm also going to give myself a quick spray of the Make It Last Matte Finish Milani. So let's get into the story about Peter Woodcock. So Peter was born in Petersburg, Ontario in 1939. He was born to a 17-year-old factory worker at the time. So when he was born, he was a very colicky kid. He cried all the time. It was just a struggle for his mom being so young. So she had difficulty time raising him. He wouldn't eat. She just didn't know what to do with him. So she gave him up after only a month of attempting to breastfeed him. And she was like, done, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. So she gave him up for adoption. Adoption agency records reported that the newborn Peter showed feeding problems. He cried constantly, just like everything she said. He would screech whenever somebody would come near him or approached him. As an infant, he stayed in various foster homes and just was bounced around quite a bit. And, that's not good. A lot of people really, really struggle when that happens, getting bounced around. You never really get to, bond with the people. And when you meet the person or the foster parents right off the jump, you're going to be a little standoffish just due to the fact of, these guys they're new, they're different people, they're strangers, you're not going to just open up to them right off the jump. But the foster care system is a very, very strange and struggling place, and a lot of kids fall through the cracks when it comes to the foster care system. So after his first birthday, he became terrified of anyone approaching him. Like, this never left. I'm running out of foundation. So anytime somebody approached him, again, still the, screeching. No one really knew why he did this. He wasn't abused in his early years. This was just something that he just seemed to do. So his speech was also kind of described as he wouldn't really talk. He didn't really make much noise. But the noises he did make sounded a lot like just like wild and whining animal noises. So he just wailed all the time and just made the craziest noises, and no one knew why. Everyone was like, hey, something's not right with this kid. So he suffered abuse in the early days of his moving around in the foster care system at the hands of temporary foster parents, having had to go to the hospital for neck injuries at 2 years old, and after quite a severe beating. He was placed finally into a stable home at the age of oh my god, my speech impediment, at the age of 3 years old. The people who fostered him at this time were named Frank and Susan, an upper middle class couple with another son. Susan, who was described as a forceful woman who didn't, you know, she couldn't really bond that well with him. She was very, she knew what she wanted, and that's what she expected the foster kids to do. She was like, you know, this is my household. This is the rules. If you don't like it, you can leave, or that's it. Like, you can't, if you want to live here, you better start following the rules. So finally, at age 5, Peter stopped crying when people approached him. But he was still described as small and strange boy, and that did not get along really well with others. You know, just a small little tiny boy. No one really understood him. No one really wanted to understand him. And, you know, like, for the longest time, people in the neighborhood only knew him as the kid who would scream anytime you approached him. So he wasn't the most, you know, popular kid. You just need a little bit of this. And I know for a fact I put too much over there. So let's dive in and let's pray that this doesn't just go, oh, she put too much on. So we'll keep lending that for quite a while, because damn, she's gonna be here. Oh man, this is looking nice. Let me just put a little foundation too on my brush to see if I can tone it down a little bit. Now it just looks muddy. Yeah, we're gonna do our best here, and we're going to see how well it looks. Oh, okay, here we go. So, you know, he stopped crying when people approached him. He was described as small. He was strange. You know, Peter remained socially awkward and became targeted of neighborhood bullies, which is like, you know, that happens in kids' life. Not every kid's gonna like each other, and I think, you know, as much as adults we see it and we say bullying is bad, you shouldn't bully. I think everybody in their life bullied someone at one point, and that's just, you know, the sad truth. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or not, it still happened. So his foster parents really cared about Peter, and they really wanted to do everything they possibly could to make sure that this kid had a proper upbringing. And even though they weren't his biological parents and they were just his foster parents, they were trying their hardest to definitely make sure that he grew up happy and healthy. And that's what they wanted. Man, is my skin giving you what's that ice cream that's like chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla? That's what I'm getting right now, the chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla vibe. That's okay. So they kind of started getting worried about him, about his fragile emotional state, and how, you know, he was getting bullied a lot. And they said we needed to do something. So the foster parents would regularly bring him to the hospital for sick children, where Peter received extensive treatment. Peter was sent to a private school, but again failed to make friends or interactions with the kids. He remained isolated, which is not what the parents wanted, but unfortunately, you know, sometimes kids are just kids, and no matter what happens or how hard you try, that's just not their calling. They're not supposed to make the type of friends that they're supposed to make, you know. But like, just from like the jump, he sounds a little serial killer, you know. They're like, let's try as hard as we possibly can to not let this kid become a serial killer. But unfortunately, it's not gonna work. So at this time, by age 11, I forgot I used the Essence Camo Concealer, and that was the Rare Beauty, and I'm dipping into this just to set my face. So at the age of 11, he was described as an angry little boy. The Children's Aid Society reported on him from the time, and it read, slight in build, neat in appearance, that's a good way to describe it, neat in appearance, bright-eyed, and wide open. Worried facial expressions, sometimes screwed up of eyes, walking briskly and erratic, moves rapidly, dots head, always questioning conversations. He was nervous that he just has to get away. In some ways, Peter has little self-control. He appears to act out almost everything he thinks and demonstrates them. Although he verbalizes his problems that he has with the other children, he has never been known to physically attack another kid, which was great. Peter apparently has no friends. He plays occasionally with younger kids. When with children his own age, he boastfully and especially decides that he just is misunderstood. So those were the reports that they did have on Peter. They said, like, he likes younger kids. He isn't the nicest with everybody else. No one really enjoys him. He's just a sad little boy. And so also when Peter was 11, he was in this Canadian national thing with the social workers. It was kind of like a school for the kids who were just a little bit different. So a social worker overheard him saying, "I wish a bomb was dropped on this exhibition and killed all the kids." After this, he was sent to a school for emotionally disturbed children. Unfortunately, this did nothing to start helping him at all, because he started having violent sexual urges. Peter stated that here he had consensual intercourse with 12-year-old girls when he was 13, which is okay, I guess, in the sense that they're the same age. Maybe, but it's still not okay. But it was consensual. Can you have consensual sex at that age, even if you guys are all the same age? So that one was the Essence bronzer, and now I'm going to go on with the Jeffree Star Diamond Wet for a little bit of a highlight. I have no clue what I'm going to do for my eyes or anything like that. I think I'm just going to do like a nice natural kind of something. Or I might go pink, because I have my pink vibe going on right now. So we're going to have to wait and see. So he was having consensual sex with 13-year-old girls. When he turned 15, he was discharged from the school and returned to live with his foster parents. But as soon as he enrolled in his original private school, where he again failed to connect with his peers, and at the age of 16, he left the private school again and sent to public school, where children from the neighborhood instantly recognized him and just started bullying him again. So like, oh, that's that weird, nerdy kid who's small and can't really speak and sounds like an animal. We're gonna go bully this kid, which is like, you kind of saw it coming. So he all of a sudden then transferred back to the private school 6 weeks later. While his peers shunned him, his teachers, they reminded him as a very bright student who excelled in science, history, English, and who frequently scored 100 on his test. So now I'm gonna dip into, this is one of my favorite palettes. It is the Morphe Sweet Oasis. And I think I'm gonna do some pinky gold looks. But we'll have to see what I feel, what the vibe is. Whoops. So one of Peter's main prized possessions, I'm just knocking everything over today. I'm just having one of those days. So one of his main prized possessions was his red and white Schwinn bicycle, on which he was always seen on. He was always driving it, always riding his bike. Everybody knew him as the kid with the wed. My speech impediment is coming out strong today. With the red bike. He rode the bike to the far reaches of the city, even during the deep, cold Toronto winters. And he just had like this weird fantasy in which he led a gang of 500 invisible boys on bikes called the Winchester Heights Gang. So he's getting bullied, they're doing whatever, and he's just vibing, He's just like, hey, I got a whole 500 person gang. Come check this out. Like, he was pumped on that, which, like, good for him, if you're gonna be lonely, might as well make kind of fun out of it. So he really, really enjoyed this. He had his little gang. His foster, whoops, see how this looks. Just a little mauve. Can't even see that on camera. So his foster parents were aware of this fantasy and his, like, how he would always wander, and they, like, you know, kind of weren't too worried about it, but they were unaware that he began to travel around Toronto on his bike and sexually assaulted kids. So this is when his early signs of criminal activity began. So he would leave all the time, and the parents, you know, kind of thought like, hey, this is an outlet for him. He only goes out at night or whenever after school, but, you know, he also doesn't have the best schooling life, so we should just let him do this, because if we let him do this, he's probably not going to start acting out in school, which is like, and he's a good kid in school, right? The only problem is he gets bullied for being weird. They don't see the problem with it, and I get that. You know, they're like, okay. So on September 15th, 1956, 17-year-old Peter was riding his bike around the grounds of Exhibition, I can't really speak today, Exhibition Place, when he met 7-year-old Wayne Mallett. He lowered the boy out of sight and then proceeded to strangle him to death. Wayne's body was found in the early hours of September 16th. Sorry, got that wrong. September 16th. It appeared that his clothes had been removed and he had been redressed. His face was pushed into the dirt with 2 bite marks were found on the body, one on the boy's calf and the other on his buttocks. There was no evidence of sexual assault. However, penis was found scattered near the body. Oh, pennies. Oh. Wow, near the body. Peter had defecated next to the victim as well. I can't read. I just said penis and it's pennies. So when this happened, the family was very distraught. They were a young family who had, I believe, Wayne had another brother in his life. They instantly called the police and they instantly started looking for him. They thought that the little boy did leave and go to the movies with his brother, but they were unaware of the actual dark, torturous events that happened to the poor son. So initially, Toronto police arrested and interrogated another boy, Ron Moffat, I'm going to say his last name is. Through relentless questioning, they extracted a confession from the 14-year-old boy named Ron. People did say that Ron was scared and just kind of said whatever the police wanted to hear just to kind of get off. You know, like, and I think that happens a lot to kids, you know, if they're examined without having a legal guardian there. You know, it's a lot going on in their life, so they're scared. They don't know exactly how to react to these police thinking that they murdered, so they're just going to say whatever the police say, thinking that they're going to be able to get to see their family again, which hindsight, it's a no, you're not going to be able to see your family again. So they arrested him right off the jump, despite witnesses who clearly placed him in the movie theater before and after the murder of Wayne. He was found guilty and sentenced to youth detention. Eventually, police acknowledged there was a serial predator in Toronto, but Ron was not released. However, when notes were shared between forces, Peter was arrested. After his conviction, Peter was called as a defense witness for Ron. The wrongful murder charges was stayed in 1957, and Ron was released from custody. So he did finally get out, but he was in jail for quite a while. So I actually really do like this one. I like the mirror, but it's just got some nice nudes that don't really blend into anything. So I'm just going to add some more pink and then probably some like gold. And here we are, we're done. A nice simple Dimpleton, you know what I mean? Simple look for a simple girl like myself. I feel like I've done this look before, but have made it just more than it needs to be. You know what I mean? So on October 6th, 1956, Peter was riding his bicycle, his favorite thing in the world, around town when he picked up a 9-year-old Gary Morse. He then drove the boy to Cherry Beach, where he strangled and beat him to death. with a coroner later determining that Moores had died from a ruptured liver. Sorry guys. So that's a pretty severe beating if you ask me. Moore's body was found with bite marks on his throat, and this time paper clips seemed to have been sprinkled around the corpse. Again, the clothes had been removed from the victim and then had been redressed. So, you know, it is like he's got serial killer vibes going right now. He has a pattern. He's going after young individuals, especially young kids who are on by themselves. He redresses them, and he tends to he bites them, and then he tends to sprinkle this little, you know, whatever the hell he has around that day around the bodies. So the dude has a motive. He has not a motive, like a pattern. People are seeing it, people are picking it up, and they're thinking, okay, we got ourselves a messed up predator on our hands. But take my NYX and put some white in my lid here. So yeah, I haven't done this in a while. So now they're really picking up that, like, hey, one guy who we think, like, they thought they got the guy who murdered and killed this boy, but now they're probably looking and thinking, hey, now we have somebody else who has the exact same MO as the first victim, who we thought we already arrested and put in jail. What's going on here, right? They're now freaking out. I don't think I brought my mascara in. So on January 19th, 1957, Woodcock, aka Peter, was again riding his bike when he approached a 4-year-old Carol and offered her a ride. He then drove her underneath the bloor? I don't think that's how you call it. Under the bridge and murdered her. When she was found, her clothes had been pulled off. It appeared that she had been choked into unconsciousness and sexually molested. And that her death was caused by tree branches forcibly being inserted into her woman region. So this was more of a brutal death and didn't have the same signs as, you know, the other ones of her being redressed, sprinkling things around, and it escalated in the sense that, you know, usually he just kind of kills them and like walks it off, you know. This one, she was sexually molested and then also forcefully had branches inserted into her, you know, nether region, and that's what killed her. So this was such way more of a violent crime and a violent murder than any of the other ones. Witnesses saw a teenager cycling away from the area around the crime scene, and they made a sketch, and the sketch was created based on those of the witnesses, which is good, but at the same time, the amount of people who have been wrongfully committed due to eyewitnesses is ridiculous. Like, it's usually the leading cause of people being wrongfully committed or wrongfully accused is because they say, you know, he might have looked like that. And then they just, you know, say, yeah, that was him. And then they go and then they say, oh, well, the witness said it was you, so it looks like you're the one. And then, you know, DNA evidence and stuff comes back and it finds out it's not them. And they just spent thousands and thousands of years in jail, like a couple, like 10, 15 years in jail, that they're never going to get back, and there's never like compensation, or if it is, it's like, oh, you're just out of jail and you have no social cues, here's $2 million, have fun spending that on alcohol and drugs, because you're not going to be able to be like reintegrated into the community. So that's just my thoughts on that. I just thought I'd put that out there real quick. So yeah, witnesses did a sketch and stuff, and it was ran on the front page of the Toronto Star and would be led to the reason why he was convicted and he was arrested. So he was arrested on January 24th, 1957. So not too far after the fact that she was murdered, because she was murdered like 3 days before that. He confessed to all 3 murders. He recalled upon his arrest, my fear was that mother would find out. Mother was my biggest fear. I didn't know if the police would let her know, which is like, mother as in the foster woman, or mother as in your real woman who, like, your real mother who just like gave you up? while in prison, Peter was diagnosed as a psychopath. He underwent various forms of therapy, including LSD treatment, which is like, sign me up. I want to take some LSD. I want to be considered crazy and take some LSD. All I get is antidepressants. Like, that's not fair. I want all these crazy drugs that they think is going to make you feel better. When they were popular in 1960s, so little off. He was also given other personality breaking drugs. There's a ton of names here that I don't want to butcher, so I'm not going to pronounce. He was subjected to dates, a personal breaking therapy in which inmates challenge each other with brief symptoms, which inmates refer to as the 100-day hate-in. So they just like attack each other, it sounds like. It was developed in the 1950s to the early 1960s by a Harvard psychologist and a former CIA interrogator for psychological warfare. So I don't really know if that sounds like the best thing to do to give to a bunch of inmates while they are, psychopaths. Psychological warfare, like, how's that supposed to make them feel better? So Peter did not respond well to these treatments and was not the ideal prisoner. People didn't really like him. He engaged in sexual acts and exploiting his fellow inmates, who were often less intelligent than him or less sane than him. He convinced inmates that he had contact with imaginary gangs called the Brotherhood. He loved his gangs. This dude loved his gangs. He was like, cool, I'm gonna make up another gang. So he thought he had another gang on the outside and convinced inmates that he, was part of it. So this one's the 800 Ferris Nude. I really like this one, and I think it'd just be a great tie-in. That in order to be initiated, inmates had to perform oral sex on him and bring him gifts, as in cigarettes. So the dude had it kind of made, though. I wouldn't want to leave. He was crazy, and they just kind of said, you know what, you're a little too crazy. We're not going to start doing these things on you, and you're going to rule the roost in prison. Over a while, Peter was eventually transferred to a less restrictive institution and ultimately arrived at the Rockville Psychiatric Hospital. Just put a little darker. This one is the next one too. I really enjoyed that one. So he finally arrived at like a schizophrenic hospital. Staff indulged in his passion for trains by taking him to Smith Falls Railway, because I can't speak again, museum, and they took him to see the Silence of the Lambs, which is, don't know if that's the most appropriate movie to take somebody who's a schizophrenic, or not schizophrenic, who is a narcissist and psycho. Don't know if that's the movie, but they picked that one. During this time, he allegedly changed his name to David Kyoga and rekindled a relationship with Bruce Hillman, an Ottawa killer who had been released from Oak Ridge and was working as a security guard in the Ottawa courts. David, aka Peter, convinced Hillman an ally brotherhood who solved his problems if he helped kill another Brockville inmate, Dennis Cure. Because why not, right? Why do people keep, like, I know when people are like psychos and stuff, they're so charismatic, they're so manipulative, they can just talk your ear off and kill you. Why do people just let that happen? Like, this dude was in jail, like, don't you know the signs? So on July 13th, 1991, Bruce went to the hardware store, bought a plumbing wrench, hatchet, knives, and a sleeping bag, and went to the Brockville Hospital, signed out the 52-year-old Peter at the time of his first public escort day pass, and within the first hours of his first unsupervised release in 34 years, Peter arranged to meet Dennis in the woods. When Dennis arrived, Peter struck him in the head with the pipe wrench and continued to beat him unconscious. Then Peter and Bruce then seized the hatchet and knife, then had hidden it in the bushes and waited for the arrival and stabbed him multiple times in his body, nearly severing his head, and then sodomizing the corpse, which is just the cherry on top. Then left the scene, walked to the police station about 2 miles away, and turned himself in. What was the point? What was the point of that? For the murder of Dennis, he was transferred back to Oak Ridge Division and to a mental health center, where he spent the majority of his 34 preceding years in custody. In the years of Keir's murder, he was then focused on a bibliography and several documentary films, and sometimes tried to explain why he killed, but he never came up with a rational reason. He just said, hey, I did it. He said in 1993, I'm accused of having no compassion, which is a fair assessment, because my compassion is whatever the system allows. Like, he just didn't care. On March 5th, 2010, he had his 71st birthday, and then he died of natural causes. So I will be right back with my final thoughts. So I'm here with my final thoughts of this case. So this dude at the jump was going to be a serial killer. His mom didn't love him. He was short. He bullied a lot of people. He got bullied a lot. He sounded like an animal as a baby. He wouldn't eat. You know, he was set up, went through the foster care, set up as a failure. He just knew this guy just did not have a fighting chance, but he never had like a head trauma or anything like that, so you didn't know if he was going to be a serial killer. But he turned out to be one. So, you know, the cops, you know, arrested the wrong guy, and then after a while he did get out, which kind of sucks that the dude had to go through all that. But this dude just knew from the jump, and he just started killing. Like, the last guy he killed, he literally did it because he could. He was just like, hey, let me out so I can kill. And the guy's like, I will help you. Let's both go to jail. So now you ruined this other dude's life. Oh, I'm tired. So now, well, the other dude was a convicted killer, so it made sense. But like, I still don't, like, this guy needs to be, like, he's dead now. He needed to be locked away where he couldn't influence people, because that seemed to be his thing, was he knew how to influence the people, and knew once he could talk them into, he could talk anyone into anything and he was going to get it. So I could kind of see, you know, there's so many of those people, there's so many of those serial killers, like, you know, you always think it's going to be like, oh, the weird creepy guy in the corner, he's the one that's going to get me. No, it's going to be the charismatic asshole who's going to lure you into it. Did you not watch Fresh and Disney Plus? Then he's going to cut your ass off and eat it. That's what's going to happen. So you always got to look up for the charismatic doctors. But yeah, you know, like, he died. I wish he would have died a brutal death, but that's cool. Natural causes is cool too, as long as he's not here. He was set up for failure from the jump, but, you know, there's a lot of people who grew up in hardship who actually are very successful with their lives, and they're not this crazy. So let me know what you guys thought about this case. Do you guys think, like, you know, he was set up for to become something that he was going to have a tough time anyways? He might have become a serial killer, but do you think he probably could have done better? They did say he was smart. So it's always the smart ones that are killers, because they know how to get away with it for a while. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below, and thank you guys for coming out and listening to me talk about this case. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. The last video didn't blow up in a sense, but you know what? I really appreciate everyone viewing my videos and liking and sharing and commenting. It means the world to me. So again, if you guys are new here, my name is Joe MacLean, and I'm here every Thursday for a true crime that's happened here in Canada. Like, here is going to be my socials. If you want, make sure you guys give me a like and subscribe. Down below there's a little bell you can click, so every time I post a video you guys get notified. I hope you guys like my look, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.